Hi guys, so I thought my first video, or my first tutorial video, would be the most common one that you find on the internet. And even though it's the most common one, I find it's the one with the most incorrect information. You get a lot of false information out there. But I've been growing Phalaenopsis orchids successfully for so long now that I thought that I would tell you how I've done it and how it's worked for me. And yeah, so let's start with this one. This one was the one that I featured in my first introductory video. She is a big girl. Well, I mean, considering my other one, she's like a medium-sized one. But anyway, she was a Valentine's present, as I told you. But often what happens when you get them in the shops is they wrap the bottom of the pot. So you don't get to see below the stems. You barely get to see the leaves. So first of all, when you get home, I'd like to just tell you some signs of a healthy orchid. So the first thing you've got to do is look at your leaves. So if your leaves are like one green color, they're not like limp and leathery, they're quite stiff, you can bend them, but you can break them, and they're not just like soft and leaves that feel like they're just gonna snap. So like these leaves are very healthy. This whole orchid looks fabulous. It had a little bit of damage on this leaf, but it's just a bit of damage. There's nothing seriously wrong there, and you see there's nothing spreading, nothing serious. I have to tell you that blooms are no way of telling whether an orchid is healthy or not. You can have a very sick orchid that has blooms. So anyway, so your first thing is to look at the leaves. Now the next thing to look at, if we take it out the pot here, if you've got a clear pot, which is what orchids should, especially phals, should generally be potted in, it should be a clear pot and you should be able to see your roots. Now you want green roots like this, spread out around the pot. If you pull your pot out and it's clear and you don't see any roots, it's a little bit worrying. So now this one, what I especially liked about this one that I noticed about it is that it was originally from the get-go planted in bark chips. I've bought a couple of Phalaenopsis orchids that are totally planted in sphagnum moss. Now Phalaenopsis orchids do not like to be drowned in water. They don't like to sit in water, and sphagnum moss is a very water retentive media. So you often find that these Phalaenopsis orchids will end up with root rot if they're planted just in sphagnum moss. So what happened was, when I got this one, half her decorative pot here was full of water. They obviously give them a lot of water because they don't know how long they're going to be sitting in the shops for. So the root system was very wet. Now you see, even in bark, look, there is a little bit of sphagnum moss in there, but not much. Even in bark, I watered this one on Sunday, so 4 days ago, and you can see the roots are still quite moist. So that's why you have problems with sphagnum moss. And because she was so overwatered when I got her, it took 2 weeks before I could water her and start getting her on my watering schedule. But now she's doing really well. All her blooms are open. She has got this one. Let's just zoom in a little bit here, see if it'll focus. We have got this one little, come on camera, sorry guys, I don't want to it's picking up what's behind it, but it's not picking up the actual. Let's try and get it a little bit closer. Okay, we're not winning here. Let's try to zoom out a little. It's just picking up everything behind it. Anyway, so it's got the little stem coming off the flower spike there. So basically, the care for these orchids that I found have worked best for me is once a week. So my orchids, my Phalaenopsis orchids, my 4 are on a Sunday schedule. So I literally take it once a week. I take this whole plastic pot. See, I've got a pot of water over there that I change every day. I put the whole plastic pot inside that pot and I leave it to soak for about 15 minutes. I obviously don't let the water come above the leaves because Phalaenopsis orchids are susceptible to crown rot. So if you get water ever in the leaves there, you must either put the orchid in front of a fan just to help dry it out, or use, I find an earbud is quite helpful, and just to dip the water out of there, just so that you don't end up with crown rot, because crown rot is unfortunately 90% of the time a death sentence for your orchid. So it gets a 15-minute soak a week. Then I put it on a tray just to let it drain, and then I put it back in its pot, and I leave it like that for another week. If a week comes and I still see that these roots are like green like that, or you see at the bottom there's quite a lot of moisture in there, then I won't water it. I would rather leave it. But obviously what you find here is, if you look at it from the top, that's why plastic pots are so good. If you look at it from the top, these roots are all silvery, which means that they need water. But obviously further down in the mix is not. So basically I will water once a week if I'm not sure. Not all my pots are clear. I've got a couple that aren't. Then I just stick to watering once a week, and I see what happens. So then in terms of fertilizer, every 2 weeks I put fertilizer in a spray bottle, and I spray the whole plant. I spray the leaves and the roots. I just make sure I do it before 10 in the morning so that the plant has the whole day to dry out, and usually I don't have any issues with rot or anything like that. Now in terms of your blooms eventually will wilt. That's just Phalaenopsis orchids. That's any orchid really for you. They don't stay in bloom forever. However, that does not mean your orchid is dead. You can, if your leaves and everything are green, it means your orchid's alive, and it will rebloom for you with the right care. So let me show you an example of my other Phalaenopsis. Here, this one. Now this one was just in bloom. There's her old flower spike. She had very pretty flowers, but I took her out of her. She had a clear plastic pot. They're quite small, and she was totally pot bound. Her roots were like 30 centimeters long. So she got repotted in a bigger pot. You can see it's a black pot. That's fine. I'm going to keep the watering schedule the same, the fertilizing schedule the same, everything the same. Now you have two options when it comes to your blooms. Your flower spike, once your blooms have wilted. You can cut it like this. So I don't usually cut it like this, but I did this as an experiment so everyone can see your different options. So you can cut it between here up the flower spike. You have nodes, so you can count between the third and fourth node. So there's the third one, there was the fourth one, and I cut it halfway between. I tend to cut it at a little bit of an angle. Now hopefully this will encourage this node here. We'll see if we zoom in, if it'll pick it up. It doesn't seem to be picking it up. Okay, doesn't matter. But basically this node, there we go, that's a little bit better. You can see this node has started plumping up a little bit, which means that it could produce another flower spike. It is not guaranteed every time, but I would like some more flowers from this one, and it's a Phalaenopsis, so I like the fact that they have flowers. I don't find their foliage particularly interesting. So that's your one option. Now your other option is, if I get my other go over here, this one is huge. She's even like a weight to carry. Now this is a huge one, so she gets a little bit more water, but because she's so big she dries out quicker. So you can see her leaves are a little bit veiny. This is her newest leaf. You can see it's nice and glossy. So this is normal, by the way. Phalaenopsis orchids, let me turn the camera sideways and you can get a wide angle of her. She's huge. They do lean forward, it's normal, and I quite like the look of this one leaning forward. I almost want to put it in a hanging pot because I think it'll look quite pretty. But anyway, so here's your other option with the flower spike. Once your flowers are finished blooming, you can cut your spike all the way down. I could have cut this one lower, but sometimes the leaves are quite in the way, difficult to move, and I don't want to cut a leaf by accident. So now you can see, because I cut this one lower, it has dried out. This flower spike is now dead, which is fine. That doesn't mean it won't produce another flower spike. It absolutely will when it's ready and when it's finished growing its new leaf. So the last thing I wanted to touch on is the fact that you do get different sized orchids. Obviously this is a huge one, but there's no like small, medium, large. You get the normal size files, which can grow from anything to like a medium size to this one, which is huge. I mean, her leaves are bigger than my hand. And then you can get a mini Phalaenopsis. Now this one here is a mini file. She's pretty. Now this one was potted in sphagnum moss. Now most people say, most websites say that you shouldn't repot an orchid when it's in bloom. Now what was happening with this one, because she was in sphagnum moss when I got her, it was taking almost a month for it to feel kind of dry enough for me to water, and then she lost a bloom. Not this one, she lost one a bit further down below that clip. And so I thought, no, I don't want to risk it. I don't want to risk losing her. I would rather lose the blooms than lose the whole orchid. But what I can tell you is that if your orchid is under stress, even when it's in bloom, and you change the reason why it's under stress, it will not lose all its blooms. So I repotted this one from sphagnum moss into bark. She did lose one bloom, that bloom there, but this has been 3 months now, and she's not even showing signs of losing any other blooms for a while. So she was obviously quite unhappy in the sphagnum moss. So my advice would be, if your orchid is looking stressed, if the leaves are looking sad, if the blooms are just suddenly all blasting, if you've got bud blast, anything like that, I would suggest repotting. It doesn't matter if it's in bloom. The thing is that if you save your orchid now, is you've got a better chance of it reblooming than having to go out and find another one. So yeah, so this one is doing really well, and I'm really glad I repotted it. So yeah, now Phalaenopsis orchids are your most common orchids, but they definitely are quite easy to care for once you get them into a good routine. And I find that's been my saving grace with all my orchids. Actually, they're all in a good routine and have the right watering schedules. So yeah, so if you just, like I said, water once a week. If your leaves are looking a little bit limp and unhappy, then you you need to check its root system. You need to repot it. The other thing that I saw on the internet, which I found quite actually hilarious, was a website actually said that when Phalaenopsis orchids leaves go leathery and limp, it is hitting a dormant stage. This is totally untrue. Phalaenopsis orchids don't go through a dormancy at all. Their leaves should not be leathery and limp. If they're leathery and limp, there's some kind of rotting somewhere. It could be crown rot, stem rot, root rot, anything is not getting enough water to the leaves, which is why they go leathery and limp. But Phalaenopsis orchids do not have a dormant period. So that's why I say, I know there's a lot of Phalaenopsis care videos out there and care information, but like I've said, I find a lot of it totally incorrect. So yeah, I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you have any questions, please just leave them in the comments, and look out for the next one. Thanks guys.